All right. Aloha and welcome to the Radical Love podcast.
Thank you.
Lori Beetle. I'm going to introduce my guest in just a moment. She is phenomenal and I would say extra brave. I'm going to share why that is in a moment. But welcome everybody. Welcome to the Radical Love podcast. And just as a reminder, what we're doing on this podcast. This is a bi-monthly podcast where I get to have these beautiful, heart-centered conversations with powerful individuals who have decided and continue to decide for radical love for themselves, for others, for their challenges. So the concept of radical love that I'm defining it as this is the idea and practice of loving ourselves exactly as we are in this moment. So it's the decision to love our life exactly as it is and to love others exactly as they are. It's choosing to love even the difficult experiences, emotions, and false ideas, because truly they're false, but we got them, false ideas that we have about ourselves and others. Because, and this is the reason why, because it does take heavy lifting and effort, because in doing so, there is an alchemy. There is an alchemy that we create that allows us to transcend our circumstances, our challenges, into an elevated awareness of the infinite power.
Absolutely.
Unlimited potential that exists within each of us. So that's what we're doing here. And what I would love to do now is to introduce our guest. So our guest, well, let's see, 28 years ago, my guest left the comfort and security of her friends and her employment to go to law school. She left without a plan or the apparent means to pay for her life or law school. So while she didn't have a plan, she did have a dream. This is what we actually do in dream building. She didn't know how, but she knew the what. So what happened was she graduated from law school 3 years later with a degree, a law degree, of course, and no student loan debt. That's amazing in itself. So for over 2 decades as a litigator, she has worked to persuade juries and judges. And how does she do this? How does she move through her life as a professional? Well, she has a kind and gentle spirit. And she's also a powerhouse because she has helped hundreds of youth and families in reshaping their lives from just clouds of misery to visions of hope and aspiration. She's a recognized expert in the area of juvenile justice, youth in transition, and has testified before the California State Legislature. And as if that's not enough, she's also a life mastery consultant. And as a life mastery consultant, she has worked with artists, nonprofit organizations, and youth to increase the success in their lives. And she has helped countless women to create a life they love. As a sought-after speaker, she has graced stages around California and shared the stage with her friend and mentor, Mary Morrissey. She's been on public radio and has appeared nationally on PBS. So please help me give a warm welcome to Lori Harris. Hey.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. I just get to tell the truth. I just get to introduce who you are. That's who you are. Yeah, and what a great joy and honor this is. Let me tell everybody, as I mentioned just a minute ago, that Lori, well, you got it, right? You've got her bio, so you know that she is just already a powerhouse. But let me just say, in this moment, this is what happened. So I'm gonna do a podcast today. I'm gonna record today, and I've got a wonderful person scheduled. And in the last minute, life happened. At the last minute, her daughter got sick and she had to cancel. And that is, you have to take care of the baby, and that's understandable. And at the same time, it was like, well, gosh, I'm ready to go and I'm planned, and I already had a plan to speak with Ms. Lori today. We had a date to talk on the phone about programs that we're creating. And my gut, because I was open to it, and this is the work that we do, Lori. I just, rather than going, well, this is the worst thing ever, I said, okay, well, all right, what could I do? And my gut said, you could ask Lori if she wants to be on the podcast like right now. And so after our conversation for a little bit, I said, this is because and it really is a lesson for all of us. And I hope you're all hearing this, because, you know, you may not be looking for somebody to be on your podcast, but you have something in your life where, you know, if you're daring to, you know, think, well, what if I could ask this person X, whatever that is, whether it's the person on the date or you're looking for another job, the worst they can say is no. The worst that could have happened is you could have said no, Lori, but instead you said yes. Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
Like if I were looking at you, if we were doing the Zoom, you wouldn't have even blinked. I know you didn't even blink. And then you quoted one of our teachers, Matt Boggs, who was on this podcast a couple of episodes ago. And you quoted him and said, well, like Matt Boggs says, when opportunity comes, you just say yes. And that is what you do. So that is what you did. So I'm just extra, frankly, you know, just proud of us for both being open to this, and extra grateful and proud that you said, and you know, yes to this. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. I'm very excited about it. And this is one of the things that I love doing, is speaking on podcasts and sharing this information with the world, because I want people to experience more freedom. And the only way to do that is to share it and to get out there and share our world vision. So that's what I'm doing.
Yes, it is. And let's not forget, because and I think it's important to be transparent in that way. It does require the individual who has this vision or this passion and purpose to still step outside of our comfort zones.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, look at you.
Absolutely. It's very scary. And, you know, the logical thing to do, what the past might have told us to do is, well, it'd be better if we scheduled this. It'd be better if we did something else.
Right.
And, you know, I need to go and prepare and do an outline. But the reality of it is that we know, and we know what we know. And it's not about us. We're allowing Spirit to speak through us and let the message get through. And so I have a message, I have a mission, and it's my job to share it without looking for perfection. Because if we look for perfection, then we'll never show up for ourselves.
That's it. I've shared this probably 2, maybe 3 times. But one of my in these episodes, one of my favorite quotes is by the great Stephen Hawking, astrophysicist. You know, and he said, in the entire universe, there's no such thing as perfection. And in fact, if it weren't for imperfection, neither you nor I would exist. And because I think that can get a lot of us stuck, where we don't want to make a move or take a step until, you know,
everything's perfect.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that means we never take a step. When we wait for perfection, then it gives us permission to do nothing, because that's not showing up.
That's right. I like that. We get permission to do nothing.
Yeah.
we don't right. And it's a sneaky, insidious one, really, because we could think that, well, we're professionals and we come to the table in a certain way, and we've got to do this perfect thing. But really, it's not only is it not the truth, but it's keeping us from actually moving in this world our true, authentic selves.
Right. And it's so interesting, because we're always at play with that thing of, if it's true that thoughts become things, then it's important for me to think about everything that I'm going to do. And I said, yeah, and that's true to a certain point, but at some point you have to marry your thoughts with actions. And if you never do that, then you're always inside your head, and you're not actually producing the things that you're thinking about. And when you allow yourself to take action, then the things that are important to you kind of rise to the top.
And then you take that action, like you did 28 years ago, going to law school.
Yeah, that was wild.
Tell me why. I mean, I can imagine why it was wild, but what when I just say that, and just in this moment you go, that was wild, what comes up for you?
Well, it really was this moment when I'd been out of college for 3 years. I was working in a theater company that I loved very much, and I was starting to feel a little bit of discomfort that I didn't really know. And then I loved where I was, and I loved what I was doing, and I loved the people that I was with, but I still felt a call for something more. And there's this thing that lives within all of us, and we either train ourselves out of listening to it or not, but there was something inside of me that said, I want something more. And I initially had wanted to go to law school. I took a break after undergraduate school, and I said, okay, now I think this is the time. I think this is the something more. And I have something more to bring to the experience that I wouldn't have had 3 years ago, because I have been doing this thing of living in the world and working in the world. And I know some things that I didn't know 3 years ago. So now I'm ready. And then everyone told me, well, Lori, this is not a good time because there's a prescription. The prescription is you save up your money, you have a nest egg, you've got everything all in alignment, and then you go and there's this perfect roadmap that everyone else has. And I didn't have that. I literally had no means to pay for anything. And I was there and I was just kind of taking it week by week, moment by moment, and not worrying about the next moment. It's like, I got this moment, that's all I've got. And it took a couple of months before the school kind of realized she has no money. But then by this time, I'm invested. I'm there.
Yeah.
I've been taking the classes. They've built a relationship with me. They now know me. They know that they care about me. I'm something real. I'm no longer just an application. I'm this person. And so now it's like, okay, she's here. She has no money. How are we going to work this out? Because clearly we need to work this out. And Providence came together and we worked it out. And it was kind of like semester by semester, but I just kept going.
Right.
And I think it's really important for people to understand that. I'm not going to really go into a lot of details about, well, what were the steps that came together for you? Because everyone's steps are different. But the point is that we all get our own set of breadcrumbs. And if we're willing to take the step and follow those breadcrumbs, it will lead us to our dream. But you have to be willing to take the step. And so for me, the burn the boat moment was when I gave up my apartment on the west side of LA, which when I was living there, I didn't even know that was a thing. I was just like, I lived on the west side of Los Angeles, and I paid a very low amount of rent. And I liked my place. It was a 1-bedroom place. I'm this young woman. I have this 1-bedroom apartment all by myself, and I love it. But I want something more. And so I gave up everything. I literally moved to San Diego, and I lived in a 1-room apartment where I shared a bathroom with a strange man. It was like a suite. And I had a sink in my room, but we shared the toilet and the bathtub.
Wow.
And he was a law student too, but the point is I didn't know him.
Yeah.
And but it worked for me, and it was a way for me to do what I needed to do. And so that's what I did for the first year. And it was fine. And I just kept going. But it required me to burn the boat. And burning the boat refers to that battle where you go into war and the captain takes you to this island knowing that you're going to have this major battle with your opponents, and you burn the boat. Because there's no retreating. You either are a victor or you're slaughtered, but it's gonna there will be a solution on that island.
Right. Exactly. And that really, gosh, there's so much in that story, Lori. The law of sacrifice comes to mind for me.
Absolutely.
Law of sacrifice. So for our friends listening, the law of sacrifice. So firstly, when we think of the word sacrifice and often we think, well, that's just going to be the worst thing ever. But the law of sacrifice simply is we sacrifice the lesser for the greater. And so, yes, there is there is, generally a pinch, right? It's not this, it doesn't have to be this horrific thing, but we're sacrificing the lesser for the greater. So in your story, you were talking about how things were good. I had this lovely place and I was comfortable, but you had to sacrifice, which ultimately would be the lesser for the greater, for going to law school, getting uncomfortable. You had to sacrifice comfort for the greater, which was a long-term, comfort and sharing, having this room and sharing the space with a dude, because you had. And and it's powerful that you had that in your bio too, that we talked about in that your bio. You didn't know, it wasn't about how, it was about I know what. Because that is what we know as Life Master Consultants, what this is all about. We don't got to know the how. In fact, if we think we know the how, then we're going to make it perfect. We don't take a move or make a move. And it is not that. It is about trust, following the breadcrumbs, like you said, toward the vision. You had a clear-cut dream or vision, and that was, I'm going to law school. Right. And I have no idea how. In fact, not only that, I love this part of your story because it's going to resonate with so many of us, if not all of us, where we've had a dream or a vision and other people, if not all people, go, no, you can't do that. How are you going to do that? Or the even more insidious, just wait. Wait until all your ducks are in a line.
Right.
Ducks are in a row. And as Mary Morrissey has that funny way of putting it, she's like, you got to wait until all your ducks are in a row. Anybody here actually own ducks? Like nobody, right? I don't own ducks, but that's what we're taught, right? To be, and that's the difference between common hour thinking and brave thinking. Common hour thinking, and it's not that it's, these are, we're not ever saying that these people are out to, unless we're in some sort of an unhealthy relationship, but to sabotage but this is what they know because this is what the world teaches.
They're coming from love. They're coming from a place of love. And so they're sharing with you their life experience. And their life experience is, if I do X, then this will result in safety. And for the people that love us, they want us to be safe. They want us to be secure. Yes. And, there is some value in security. And we all are on that spectrum of wanting security. But on the other hand, we also are seeking something that's going to remind us that we're alive. And so we allow as much adventure in our lives as ourselves can tolerate.
Yeah.
Some people were like, I only want a little bit of adventure. And I don't require anything more. And then some people have a greater sense of, in order for me to feel like I'm truly alive, I have a bigger sense of what I require to feel alive.
Yes.
And so for me and for many people that we work with and we consider to be our colleagues, they have a big quotient of what is required to be alive. And so there's the personal development expert, I think his name is EA, and he says everybody dies.
Artist. I love the spoken, yes, Prince EA.
Yeah.
Prince EA. Yeah.
Everybody lives. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives.
Yes. In fact, let me tell you, everybody listening, Lori, that video is on my website in case you don't know what we're talking about. Go to kaizenempowermentcoaching.com, and it's under one of the tabs that says inspiration. It's at the top because it is one of, you know what? Let me tell you, I show it to all my students at the university that I teach at.
Oh, wow.
Yes. Before the end of the semester, I'm like, this is what I want you to hold, right? No matter what class or it always, it matters. And sorry to interject, but I'm with you on I love that video.
No, true. And so at the time of our recording right now, the world is dealing with the fact that Toni Morrison has left the planet and she's no longer with us, this famous literary giant. Yes. But I'm always reminded, it's like, for the people that we hold in very, very high esteem, they die too. Yeah. And what is the legacy that they've left behind? And we are so grateful that she answered her own personal call to I want to tell stories. I want to tell stories about my own experience. I want to tell stories that matter to me and I believe will matter to my community. And in so doing, I can bring a little bit more love. I can bring a little bit more peace. I can bring a little bit more connection in my particular gift. Yes. If I show up for myself. And so her first published work doesn't come out until she's 39 years old. Yeah. Everybody lives. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. Right. And so we get to decide what are we going to do with that space between the date of our birth and the date of our death. And for some of us, it's really, really big what Toni Morrison was able to accomplish in her life. But it's not about big or small. It's all relative. It's about what did you do with your life? Yeah. And, I just became very aware that there are these signposts in my life that happen periodically that ask me to check in with myself. Mm-hmm. And says, are you really living? Mm-hmm. Are you doing the things that you want to do with this one precious life that you have? And so at one moment it was, well, I've always wanted to go to law school. This seems like the moment. Yeah. I've always wanted to travel. Have I traveled as much as I wanted to? Have I seen the things that I am curious about? Yes. Have I, and for me, the travel is just about making connections and being reminded that we are far more alike than we are different. And how is it that you do your life is similar to the way that I do my life? And where is there that sisterhood, brotherhood, that unity? I love that. And I love the beauty that is life that says that we are all artists in our own right.
Yes. And that connection of, there is a, I like to think of it as there's a, and this is what I'll do. A part of my practice before I meet with my clients, before we have a coaching session is and as well as a lot of other instances, but in my meditation practice, just picturing a golden thread of light moving from my heart to their heart. So whether it's preparing so that, like you talked about earlier, the idea of like doing things perfectly, but it's not that, because we're a channel. We're a channel for infinite intelligence and infinite love. And we have that commonality. And if I can have that, remember that it's not actually about Corey. It's about me being a channel for this message, and whether it is on a one-on-one or group, or my students at the university, and I know you do this as a litigator, and all the work that you are doing in this world. So in other words, it's not just that we wear we're transformational life coaches and we wear that hat and it's the only time. This is who we aspire to be in the world all the time.
Right. Right. And, many of my clients come to me just because people notice there's something different about me. And I was like, yes. What is that? And why are you different? Why are you responding in this way? And it's the ability to decide to have a response rather than a reaction. That once there's a stimulus, that I get to decide, well, this is how I'm going to respond to this, what appears to be a negative situation. And people will invite you. It's like, no, come over here. This is what we're doing. We're freaking out. Come over here. We're freaking out. You want to join me in the freak out? Right. I was like, no, thank you.
That's it. Thank you. No, thank you.
No, thank you. And then people get curious about that. And they're like, really? That's a choice? And then it takes them down a road. It's like, so you've made that choice. Does that mean you don't care? And after a period of observation, they learn, oh, it doesn't mean she doesn't care. It just, that's not how she's going to show her care. Yes. That's not how she's going to show her concern. And it looks a little different on that side of the street. And so sometimes they're like, well, show me how you do that, or why do you do that way? And it's an opening for me to share my work.
You know what? And you said it's a different side of the street, and I really just envision like there's on one side of the street, on the other side it's like the street of fear, and you're on the street of love.
Right. Right.
Marianne Williamson has said that. So many great teachers have said that. But we can either live from love or we can live from fear. And that's it. So you are doing the work, and we're moving forward, but you're doing it in a way, and this is also, that's coming from love and not fear. And not, like you said, well, people are like, come over here. You want to come on this party of this? Like the world is, kind of like the Chicken Little, like the sky is falling, even though there's legit things going on. So it's not about by any means Pollyanna-ing this, but like, I'm Pollyanna and I don't see anything, everything's great. Like, no, there are real things that are at the level of facts and circumstances, but we're not going to go there because we want to focus on what we want to have occur. In other words, the great teachers from Mother Teresa to Nelson Mandela to Dr. King to, so on and so forth, but they focused on the solution and not the problem. They were coming from love. That's radical love. I've talked about them many times, but in everything that they were going through, right? Being imprisoned for 28 years and being able to transform what's inside of you.
Right.
And then the whole country. That's
right.
mastery. But it never would have happened if he would have just, the great Nelson Mandela, President Mandela, it never would have happened had he stayed in the hate and the fear. And, so it takes, again, a lot of dedicated, effort but it is possible, but it is through, I just know that love moves faster. And
it's a decision, and it can feel difficult because it's a habit, and people, it's so easy just to fall in line with what everyone else is doing.
Yes.
And it requires strength of character.
Yeah.
Requires strength of character. And it appears to be easier to do what everyone else is doing, but in reality, it isn't, because once you get on the track of checking in with yourself and what feels like love and what doesn't, doing the thing that feels like love for you, it's always going to feel better.
Yes.
It's always going to feel better. And then the decision is, am I going to share that with someone else? And sometimes we choose not to share why we're taking this path because the person's not able to hear it.
Right. Exactly.
And it doesn't change you. And so it gets into the whole thing of advanced decision making.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's some things that you don't have to, there is no decision. You've already decided what you're going to do. And so there's just opportunities to act on that which you've already decided to be, who are you going to be. Yes. And then take action steps that are in alignment with the original decision.
I love that. That's something that, I've learned in the teachings that we've been trained in. And, and I would share this with my clients, but, in the morning, I tell them I'd like you to create a to-be list. Who do you want to be in the world today? Who do you want to be? And that is so different from what most of us are taught, right? I mean, I'm a part of a system. I'm a part of an academic, university. You're a part of a system in the courts where there are certain things we have to do to show up. But
right.
How we show up and the energy with how we are being as we do the things we need to do, that makes a huge difference. That's why people go to Lori Harris and go, there's something different about you, right? I'd like you to be my lawyer.
Right. Well, that's what really does happen. And I've learned, and this is very recent, like I've been coaching for 5 years, and I've been a lawyer for 28 years. But I just recently learned to allow my legal practice to become a meditation and to be here and now. And so that allows me to not ruminate on what happened yesterday and how I made this mistake or that mistake, or if I made a mistake, and just thinking about, well, what if? It allows me to put that down.
Yes.
It allows me to, and it's in contradiction to the legal training, because the legal training teaches us to look for what's wrong right now and look for how bad it can get, and then do whatever you can to fashion a result that protects your client from the worst possible outcome, gets the best possible outcome for them, and does a little forward thinking of more negativity, and just to be prophylactic and protective for this negative future experience. And which is fine, but after a while, if you take that into your everyday life, it makes for a very unhappy experience.
Yes.
You know, if you, as a litigator, and you want to be having conversations with your loved ones, and you only have conversations with people when you decide, I know what you're going to say, or you say what I tell you to say, which is a very litigator way of thinking of the world. It's like, I only ask questions that I know the answer to.
Right.
I only ask questions that I know the answer to, and sometimes if I don't know the answer, but I do need the answer out, and I have a particular answer that I'm looking for, then what I can do is paper train you into saying what I need you to say, so that by the time I get to that question, you say what I tell you to say.
Yes.
And you can't take that into your real life. You can't take that into your relationships. You can't take that with your family. That's not how we want to show up. And it just depends, because it's about deciding what does it mean to have a vision-driven life. So if, in fact, we are going to live a vision-driven life, and most of us as life mastery consultants, we don't really focus in on just love relationships. So we're not just focusing in on being a money coach or a career coach, because we stand for the principle of that we are fully functioning whole human beings, and we want our clients to experience the whole thing. And so we are compartmentalizing our lives. We recognize that we can have these quadrants, but we want to have a good experience in all of our life.
Yes.
And so with that, we create a vision for our whole life. What if I could have anything I want? What would that be? What would that look like? Well, I want really good health. I want healthy and vibrant and fulfilling relationships. I'd want work that serves me. And I want to have the time and money, freedom to do and give and share the way I want to. And so if that's the truth, what's going to get us there? And thinking like a lawyer, if you don't learn that is a way, but is not the only way to practice, then it sets you up for a difficult existence.
Yes.
And I had to just decide that I didn't want that for myself. It's not how I wanted to feel on a day-to-day basis. I didn't want to be looking for the next thing to what's going to go wrong,
right,
and trying to avoid it, looking off into the horizon, looking for negativity. I didn't want to live my life like that.
And it was you had to then take consistent, that time-space repetition of making a decision to see something else, to look for the good, and to make some shifts in your own behavior. That's powerful, because I haven't heard that put before, but you decided to make your law practice a meditation.
Yeah.
I love that. And that for me was like, boom, that's the radical love, because you're radically loving, meaning, right? Because when I talk about radical love, it's like the kind of things where you would, if you were given, Harry Potter gave you a magic wand, you'd be like, poof, can I just make it so I didn't make a mistake yesterday?
Right.
Okay, we can't do that, but we can love ourselves and love the mistake. And so that we can not only move forward to help clients, in your law practice in the future, but so you can be present to the moment now. Right. So your meditation, presence, one with what is.
Well, right now in my law practice is I work every day with young people who have been exposed to human trafficking.
Oh.
And so they've been exploited. And it's my job to be with them. And so I work in a specialized court, and the purpose of the court is to, ideally in a perfect world, at the conclusion of their contact with us, the client's contact with us, they would no longer be working in the life, that they would be on to living their life as, a normative life, which we say for children is going to school, being loved, doing childlike things. Okay, that's what we want for them. Now, in order to get there, we have to be okay with where they are right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to be able to separate their activities from who they are.
Yes.
And that takes time and energy.
Yes.
And it takes us to surrender to not knowing what the outcome's going to be. And being okay with that. And so I'm not concerned with where my clients have been. Like I don't care about where they were last week, last night, or any of that. I don't care about the fact that they have been exploited. It's not who they are.
That's
it. And so they're sitting with me now, and I'm holding for them wholeness.
Yes.
And I would love to paint a vision and a picture for a beautiful future.
Yes.
But in this moment is a good moment, and they're fine. Yes. Right where they are, right here, right now, just as they are. And that's been an exercise, because as a litigator for years, I was very outcome driven. And it benefits the client to have a bit of an ego and to be a winner. It's like, you know what I am? I'm a winner. When I go into trial, what I do is I win. You want to go with me? And who doesn't want that lawyer?
Yeah.
Who doesn't want that lawyer? Okay. And so that's great. But then when you move into another court where we're not fighting anymore, there's nothing to fight about. We all agree we want the children to be out of the life.
Right.
And so we're collaborating on how can we form a vision that's in alignment with what this kid wants.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're all there. We're not fighting anymore. So then there are going to be disappointments along the way. It's very much like getting an addiction treatment. You know, people who have had an experience with addiction may experience relapse over and over and over again. And we don't give up on them. Okay, it's the same thing. And so I just have to hold that for them. And so they are a success. They don't have to do anything to be a success. They are a success just by the very fact that they're breathing.
Yes.
And so that's enough. And I've had to learn to take that in and to let that be enough. Because as a litigator, I've had an experience of doing extraordinary things. And it feels really good when we get kids who are able to make the transition and take the steps and get themselves into college and go off and into the sunset and leave the life behind. That does feel really good. But I love everybody, whether they do or not. It's not conditioned on that.
Yes.
It's not conditioned on that. And it's been a real journey for me to get there, to be able to have that feeling and to be in acceptance for that. And, you know, some of that is from the benefit of the teaching and the coaching, but I really benefit from having a coach mentor like Mary. And so when she tells me, she shares a teaching with me, I know she's sharing it from the point of view of a lived life, not a theoretical thing, but something that she's actually gone through. And so I've had the benefit of now going through the other side and taking these principles and using radical self-love and self-care to get me to the other side, where I again feel wholeness and completeness. And so it's like when we engage in this work as coaches, we are not guaranteeing that we're not going to have difficult times. We definitely will. It's not if, it's when. And it's up to us to confine it. And it can be a long time or it can be a short time. But the journey is the journey, and you stay present for it and be gentle and kind with yourself and love yourself through that to get to the other side. So that's what I've had from the benefit of the coaching, being a coach, and being coached.
Yeah, there's so much there, Laura. Gosh, I mean, just I want to make sure we're shining the biggest light of awareness on what a tremendous transformative gift you are giving your young clients when you are able to see them in their wholeness, even though the facts and circumstances are, I mean, like the worst we can imagine for kids, right? They are in this thing that is just sounds like horror, and yet this is what we are taught, but and you're coming from the energy of the power within you is greater than this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing them in this way, and I would bet you're one of the few that is doing that in the moment. I don't mean later when they got the thing, okay, and they tell somebody your story and go, wow, I would have never known. While they're in that, it's like, I mean, I'm going to just say it, but it's what in the teachings in the Bible, the teachings of what Jesus Christ did, like people would come and they would be dripping in the, the disease and dripping in illness, and he would only see them as whole. And so that's what you're doing. You're giving this gift of, I see you. You are whole.
They're giving me that opportunity to decide who am I going to be? How am I going to show up? And so they're there. I get to decide who I'm going to be in that moment.
Yes.
And so it's very affirmative. It's very life-giving. And when I went into the work, I really wanted to follow the teachings of Jesus the Christ. I wanted to do that. Yeah. And I said to myself, if Jesus were here, would he see a child prostitute? Would he see that? Or would he see a child? A child that needs loving care. And even though that was my goal going into it, it's not until I have the actual opportunity to see where are the challenges with that. Yeah. And then the daily opportunity to build that muscle to the point where I'm there and it's really happening. But it's a meditation, because so many people, like if I tell them what I'm doing, their first reaction is to laud it, like, oh, that's so important. But the truth is, the kids are doing the hardest part of the work.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I'm loving them, and I get paid to professionally love them. Yes. But after all that they've been through, it's work for them to be able to receive it, to process it, and to use it as a foundation to build upon. It's work for them.
Yes.
Because they've been taught so much along the way that people can't be trusted, or nobody really loves you, or there is no love in the world. And they've been taught a lot. And it's my opportunity to invite them into another way of looking, another way of thinking, and experiment. And I can't discount what they've been through. And so, you and I as adults who have been through some things may think we know some things. We may think that we've had hard times. And for us, they were our hard time. And then we look at someone else and it's like, wow, their hard time is different than my hard time. Their hard time is harder than my hard time. But that's not true. The truth is that every experience is truly neutral. And it's just how we respond to it.
It's true.
It really, really is. And it's someone's journey.
Yes. And
there's lots of things that we would prefer that didn't happen to us. But this is their journey. And there's some good that can come out of it.
Yeah.
There really is.
There is.
But we have to be present for it. And for me, I struggled because it was an opportunity for me to sit with, well, does this work even matter when you're looking at this kind of trauma?
Right.
And it still does.
And it does. And that is, and again, I'm saying this, you know, and because you're right, and you are so wonderfully humble, right? The kids are doing the hardest work, but you are a space for them, and you're providing a vision for them that they might not have, you know, in this moment been given, right? You know, it's this tiny, not doesn't even compare, but when I used to help students, I was a writing consultant, one of my jobs at the university, and I would help students write, you know, their letters to get into universities and their things like that. And they have stories, right? They got stories, but I help them turn it around from telling their story coming from that energy of I'm a victim to I am victorious. I am victorious. And that is a small, tiny fraction of what you're doing. But the thing is, the same way, they don't know that if they're not told that they're victorious, they could still think of themselves as a victim forever. So you are one of the, and you may not be the only, but maybe they hopefully have social workers and things like that are helping them say, you are victorious. Right? There is a seed of good that can come from this. And even if it's just in the moment, you know that you survived, you are here, like you said earlier, you're breathing, and we can move forward. And then that can transform into, that's one. So for my, you know, for our listeners, if that might be one that feels really difficult when these kinds of situations, or our own, you know, a loss or something where we go, there's nothing that good that could come out of that. I know that you and I believe there's always a seed of good.
Yeah, it is. And it doesn't take away from the pain.
No.
But we can look for some good and just at minimum make ourselves available to receiving it. Yes. I don't know what the good is right here, right now, but I'm available to receiving it.
Yes.
And I know that some good can come of this. And the kids are really extraordinary. Really powerful, beautiful, extraordinary people. And I'm excited about what their future holds for them, because there's been this international shift in, as a world, what are we going to do? And what do we stand for? Yes. And are we going to make the planet safe for women and girls? Are we going to do that or not?
Yes.
We get to decide.
That's it.
And over and over and over again, people are saying, yes, we're going to make the planet safe for children. We're going to make the planet safe for women and girls. We're going to make the planet safer for being different, because we know that it is in our divinity that we're united. We know that it is in our divinity that we are not confined by these bodies. And if we can celebrate that connection, we can build something beautiful. And I love that you refer to Nelson Mandela, because he's such a great leader and such a great way shower and an example. And it's a real great example of playing for the long game, you know? Just because when I was young and working in the theater before I went to law school, I worked in the anti-apartheid movement.
Oh my God.
And I used to say to myself and to others, I don't know how long I can do this. You know, Nelson Mandela is still locked up, and I just don't know how long I can do this. And, you know, on the one hand, that sounds crazy. You know, here I am in my 20s working in the anti-apartheid movement. I'm working. He's living it. And he, at that point, had already lived it over 20 years. So I really I don't really have permission to say I'm getting tired, right? You know? I don't get to do that. It's all relative, right?
Yes.
But we do get this opportunity to think about the long game.
Yes.
And when you have a vision, you know that you may not see a way, but there is a way.
There is a way.
There is a way.
There is a way. And the way is always from, whether it's, you know, Nelson Mandela again, Dr. King, Malala Yousafzai, Mahatma Gandhi, but that way is coming from, truly, when I dissect it, it's coming from radical love. It's not, you know, he didn't come out full of anger and hate and then said, now I'm going to take down this country, right? He came out with love in his heart. And when I have studied it, and you probably more of an expert on this than I am, you were actually involved in the changing of it, but he started with the guards, right? The guards that he was one-on-one with, and started forgiving them. So it's that radical love and that forgiveness there. And
I have a quote from him. I never lost hope that this great transformation would occur, not only because one of the great heroes I've already cited, but because of the courage of ordinary men and women of my country. Yes. I always knew deep down that every human heart, there is mercy and generosity. No one is born hating another person because of the color of his skin or background or his religion. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes more naturally to the human heart than its opposite. And even in the grimmest of times in prison, when my comrades and I were pushed to our limits, I would see a glimmer of humanity in one of the guards, perhaps just for a second, but it was enough to reassure me to keep going. Man's goodness is a flame that can be hidden but never extinguished.
Yeah.
And so I believe that there's a reason that we're all here. I believe that there's a reason that we're called to do the work that we are called to do. And if we can stay in alignment with our mission and our mission statement and tap into our why, right, we can do great things.
We can do extraordinary things. And I was recently writing about this, and I thought, most of us know the quote from Mahatma Gandhi, another great teacher who moved through that radical love. And that, civil disobedience, but from nonviolence and such, the peace. But he said, be the change that you want to see in the world.
Right.
And I think that, we see that a lot and we go, well, yeah, okay. But when I really was just analyzing that and dissecting it recently and writing about it, because he didn't say, rail against the thing that you don't want to see in this world. And right, that is a big difference.
Right.
That's a huge difference. I'm going to fight the thing that is hating. So if we say, right, the racism and and the institutionalized racism, it's okay. We're not hating that or those who do, but we got to come from that place of radical love, or we can't change it.
Right. And so we get to decide how we're going to walk in the world. We get to decide how we're going to show up. And I'm very cautious and curatorial with my social media, and I don't do it perfectly, but I endeavor to be a place of love on my social media and to share messages that will help people and inspire people to move forward from a place of love. And we get to decide what we're going to do with our platforms. You have a platform in a podcast. I have a platform in my app. I have a platform on my website. I have a platform in all my social media. And I strive for a consistency in that message because what I do know is once you decide on what it is you want, the effort in persuading people it's unlikely that you're going to persuade anybody by yelling at them and telling them that they're stupid and what's wrong with them.
Right, exactly. And they're ignorant and they're, hate.
Right. It's just, that's not.
More hate, you just get more hate.
It's so not, my experience is that's not going to work.
No.
And so we can do the things that we would normally do in any other aspect of our life when we're trying to persuade someone is to listen, look for understanding and connection, and really process and try to persuade and be gentle in the persuading and be willing to hear another side. Be willing to be persuaded.
Yes, to be open is so huge. I always think of the Einstein quote: "You cannot solve the problem from the same mind that created the problem." So,
right,
somebody's coming from this hate energy and fear. Right, that's what this is, right? When there's bigotry and racism, it's all coming from fear and ignorance in the sense of a lack of awareness, not stupidity, but they don't know. But if we're coming from that same energy, then it doesn't work. We cannot solve that problem from that energy of hate and fear, even though in many ways it would be easier because it takes more heavy lifting for us to go, okay. And I'm going to see the human being here, and I'm going to see that there's also a thread of golden light moving from my heart to this person's heart, this person who is difficult to love, but I'm going to love them anyway, because I didn't come up with this, but the great teachers, Dr. King and Mother Teresa and so on and so forth, Malala Yousafzai, this is what works, right? This is how it works. And this is how we create real long-lasting change. And as you said, my friend, we want to be in it for the long run.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, this has been so powerful and so extraordinary. And I got just feeling, the power of this conversation. And I thank you. Any final words of wisdom, thoughts you might have around radical love? Anything else you'd like to say before we sign off?
Well, I just want to remind people that when we're talking about creating a vision for what we would absolutely love living, whether it's in our professional life or our personal life, that we can always rely on the rule of three. And in the rule of three, we have our mind and our body and our training. So in our mind, we really want to be connected and notice the things that we're noticing and take the time to notice where we are allowing our thoughts to go. And if they go to a place that doesn't serve us, that isn't expansive, then we can gently bring ourselves back to that original vision of what it is that we would absolutely love. In order to get anything, we must always take care of the body temple. And that requires us to radically love ourselves in that. And that means that every day, in some way, we're going to do something that is nurturing and nutritious for the body, whether it's in our choice of rest, our choice of self-care, our choice of nutrition, or our choice of activity. We want to really honor the body temple because there's not much that we can do on this physical plane without it. And so we want to be grateful to the body temple and care for it. And finally, trust the teachings and the training. And so in our work, whether it's you as a professor or me as a lawyer, we want to trust that we will do the work that needs to be done and we will do it well. And because worrying doesn't prove that we care, we're going to set down worry and allow ourselves to do that which is necessary. Not a lot of forward thinking or a lot of backward thinking, but in this moment, what's the best possible thing that I could do? And that's how we can radically love ourselves and love our practice and marry our regular life to our professional life and create a balance. And I would love for all of us to experience that. Yes,
and so it is. And beautifully said, my friend, and my challenge to everybody listening is your profession, where you are in life, and whether that is a particular vocation or your profession is you are, in charge of your beautiful home and you are the executive at home and staying home with with your kids, and that is your job, because that is a job. But looking at that, my encouragement, my challenge to you is, can you, like Lori, see that as a meditation? She sees her. So looking at some gold nuggets from our podcast today and what we've got from this conversation and all the beautiful words of wisdom and heart-centered topics that we've talked about. But can you, she's making a decision. You, my friend, are making a decision to, again, see your law practice as a meditation. Can you see your job, whatever it is, my friend, who you're listening, as a meditation? So you're walking through life as a meditation. And as Lori has already said, and I've already said, to radically love what happened yesterday, let go of what's going to happen in the future, to be present with your loved ones, to be present with yourself. And that body temple is so important. That body temple is everything. To love and appreciate your body temple right here and right now. And to make that, as Kirsten Wells, one of our teachers, would say, to have that be your prescription. So take, 3 times a day or as needed, when you see yourself in the mirror, when you think of your body, to say, I love and appreciate you. I love and appreciate you. And in case you like the empirical evidence, There's the great Dr. Emoto, who has done that scientific research that these words they change the molecular structure of water. I invite you to look into that. We'll talk about that maybe in another podcast, but the molecular structure changes, and when we can just say I love and appreciate water, it's very different when we're saying I hate this water and I hate. So that's a cool experiment. But think about that as your body temple is that. So I hope that you move into the rest of the day holding that space, that you're loving and appreciating yourself right where you are, because that's, gosh, like you said before, that we can transition, and and people that we love and respect, that our time on this planet is temporary. Toni Morrison is a reminder of that. And so why not love ourselves? Golly. Can we just make a decision? Let's make a decision.
Yes.
So you're going to definitely want to look into learning more about our wonderful guest today, Lori Harris. You'll find that information at Lori, Loria Harris, HARRIS.com. That's LoriAHarris.com. Phenomenal work in this world, my friend. Such an honor and a pleasure. And again, thank you for bravely stepping into this podcast, just like, sure. And what an extraordinary conversation we've had. So my heart to yours, such gratitude. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's my honor and privilege. Thank you.
And to everybody listening, as always, I really do hope that you are just loving big, and that you're being brave, and that you are sharing your beautiful light with the world. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a great day. Love you. Bye. Bye for now.